welcome to this beautiful little studio.
Yeah, and that's a great setup in here.
It's so cool. I want to know who you are and what it is that you do and why are we here?
Yeah, sure. So my name's Denis Curnow. I'm a producer, and I'm here because I'm fortunate enough to have 2 films in the festival this year. So I've been, welcome to Gympie, and I'm loving it, loving my time here. I've had so much great hospitality and great food. I'm really stoked to be here.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Tell me about being a producer.
Yeah.
What does that mean? I mean, we can say producer, but it really is a vague kind of thing in a lot of people's minds.
Yeah.
What does it actually entail?
I mean, it's different, I guess, producer to producer, but the way that I kind of look at it is my job is to make things happen, basically. I'm no good with a camera. I'm no good with directing actors or performance and stuff, but what I think my strong suits are, I have a good understanding of story and also logistics. So, my role is essentially being like the custodian of the story from the very seed of the idea at the start all the way through to, pre-production, production, post, and then distribution at the end. So, I'm basically on board for each project for its entire life. That's basically my job, I guess.
So that's a very collaborative process.
Absolutely,
isn't it? Is that, I mean, it's not always easy to be collaborative, and sometimes, particularly artists, can be insular.
Yeah.
How does that feel in terms of trying to bring the best out in people as you're doing that?
Yeah, well, filmmaking is irreducibly collaborative. And I think that it has to be that way because you need for instance, what we've got even in this room, we've got a camera, we've got sound, we've got you and me. Those are a whole bunch of different, very technical skills and very technical sort of departments that each require experts in those fields to run. So if you have one person trying to do it all, you're just going to do a half-assed job at everything. So it's the same, when you scale it up to a bigger film production. You really want the best writers writing, you want the best directors directing, you want the best people with a camera behind the camera, that sort of thing. In terms of collaboration, though, I mean, I know when you're as you mentioned, artists can be insular, but I've experienced that as well, particularly earlier on in my sort of filmmaking career, I guess. I would have an idea and I'd be really sort of cagey about it and not want it to change, but the more you bring people on, the more they bring their own life experience to it, it inevitably grows, and it's, in my experience, always been for the better. If you're only one person bringing one point of view to the project, then it's going to be inevitably a pretty narrow-minded and point of view. So, I think collaboration is key, and it's what makes filmmaking special.
So how did you become a producer? What led you to this point?
Yeah, so I had a sort of funny intro to the world, I guess. When I was in high school, a couple friends and I would write and perform sketches for our school review, and occasionally we'd film them and cut them together. And so that was my first kind of collaborative filmmaking experience. And then one of my friends in that group, Lockie Goff, he actually ended up entering and winning a stand-up comedy competition. It was called Class Clowns. I think it was for school-aged kids. And so the Disney Channel came and interviewed him. And then in that interview, he mentioned that, we did sketches and filmed them, and they were like, "Oh, great, can you show us one?" And he did, and they liked it, and they said, "Well, great, can you make a bunch more for our channel?" And so that was it fell from the sky, but
wow.
That was the first time that we realized, or that I realized at least, that this was this thing that we'd been doing, mucking around, when we were just sort of hanging out and playing, was something that you could actually kind of make a career out of. I guess that was when the seed was really sown, and that's kind of what I've been chasing.
That must have been an incredibly thrilling moment.
Yeah. I think I was pretty naive back then as well. I didn't really know how crazy that was. I knew that it was massive, but nothing's come as easily as that as that since. That's for sure.
And that is part of life.
Yeah.
So tell me about the 2 films that you've got in the Heart of Gold.
Yeah. So the first one is it's called The Sax, and that was it's basically about a prodigious jazz saxophonist who he discovers a horrifying truth about his teacher, and it shatters his entire world basically. But then through leaning on his friends and his family and the healing power of music, he's able to rebuild and find his own voice. And so that one, I mean, jazz, I find, like I used to play jazz, I was a pianist, but I find jazz, because it's such a improvised art, you have to be really vulnerable all the time, and it's impossible to hide your influences, and even more impossible to separate yourself from them. And so also, you know, when you're playing, each player has to be true to themselves in the moment, but also be listening to and responding to their playing partners at all times. And so I felt like the setting of the Australian jazz scene, which has had its fair reckoning of problematic mentors, was a really perfect setting to talk about that sort of story of healing. Yeah, and then the second one is called AFTRS, or in English it's called Eat Up. And it's a Chinese language sort of soft sci-fi about, it's in a world where humans don't cook anymore, all food is 3D printed. And it's basically a father-daughter sort of story of these two reconnecting over rediscovering the lost art of cooking.
Beautiful.
Yeah. So that one's, that's really cute. It's a really heartwarming one. I really love it. I mean, a world without cooking, I'd hope that never comes to pass, but if it does, hopefully this film can show that, you know, we'll still have hope of rediscovering it.
How many people have been involved in the films that you've got in the...
Yeah, so in terms of heads of department, we had probably like 8 or 9. These were both films that I did at film school. So we had like 8 or 9 heads of department on each of them, and then broader crew beyond that. So each set probably had 30 or 40 people total.
Oh, that's impressive.
Yeah, and then beyond that also the support network that we had from the school and the resources that they gave us and the mentors that we had there. So yeah, it took a village, really.
And it does.
It
does.
Yeah.
And so what are you going to do after, I mean, not after this, but what are your plans? What are you working on now?
Yeah, I've got a couple ideas that are sort of bouncing around my head. There's a sports comedy feature which I'm trying to write. I haven't done too much writing, but it's an exciting challenge, and I'm enjoying it. And then there's a couple of series ideas that I'm developing as well. I'm currently working at a production company in Melbourne, so yeah, I'm really fortunate to be kind of at the coalface of like.
That's absolutely brilliant.
Yeah, seeing how things get made.
Yeah.
There.
And are you disciplining yourself? Are you know, when you're sitting down to write, is it I'm writing from this time to this time and anything that comes out, or are you just captured by the moment and furiously take notes? How do you, what's your process?
I'm still figuring out my process.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, it's also like, it's tough with, you know, working full time as well, so I've got to fit my own stuff kind of around my work. But yeah, basically I find I'm better off, I'm more creative in the afternoons towards the evenings. Like I think my logistical mind is more switched on in the morning, and that's when it's good to do my work stuff. And then towards the afternoons, when my logistical mind gets tired out, that's when the creative stuff maybe starts happening a bit more. But also I've found, like, you know, I went through a period recently with writing where I was like writing kind of non-stop for a couple of weeks, and then I just completely burnt out and was just like, I feel like I squeezed the sponge a bit too hard. So I'm trying to find that balance. But as I said, I'm still learning, still new to it. So I'll figure out what works best for me.
Yeah, what a wonderful story, Dennis. I really wish you all the best.
Oh, thank you so much.
It's an exciting thing, and we're going to keep watching for future films for The Heart of Gold.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you so much.